This is Brian from Military Mobility. We specialize in off-road expeditions and training. Today we're here with our lead instructor, Webb. We're going to be discussing water fording. This is part of a series we're doing where we're comparing our two 2008 Land Rover LR3. The gray one's equipped with the Coil suspension. The black one here has the stock air suspension and 3.0 Johnson rods. Before we just jump into the water here, we want to have a brief class and just an open, honest discussion about water fording, what's involved, some of the planning considerations, some of the safety factors for it, and preparedness. So, Webb, before we start crossing the body of water, what are we thinking about initially?
Well, very first thing, we need to make sure our vehicle's up there. Okay? What I mean by we know what it can weigh. This vehicle has its limitations, like all. The air intake is a very important part of it. On this one here, here's our air intake. Naturally, if we get any deeper water in there, we're going to destroy our engine. So we want to make sure we keep our water below that. There's several methods that we'll explore today. One is by making a nice wave, tucking in it, and then the water will come down. And the other, if it's really deep and you're really concerned, make a small snorkel. We've made them out of cardboard and duct tape and put them on there, snorkeled them up to here so we could get deeper water.
Okay, and now since we're on the subject of the snorkels, you know, we'll see around town, everybody's got the really cool, very romantic looking, but and functional, the snorkels. But if I went out and just bought a snorkel in and of itself, does that all of a sudden mean I can go in this really deep water?
Well, you can go in the really deep water, but it maybe destroy your car. Okay, most of the electronics inside are not designed to be underwater, so you got to keep that in your mind. Okay, if you take it into water like this, and there's no water inside, it's very possible that you're going to float that vehicle, and then you have another problem. But it doesn't. I mean, it's simple math on how much water displacement before you float a vehicle.
So if we were planning on putting one of the snorkels to run up high, we'd also want to take some precautions and be waterproofing some of the electronics, or even possibly relocating them.
Or relocating them, whatever it is. All these vehicles that you see driving underwater with this speed, I can pretty much guarantee their instrument cluster is no longer functional after a few weeks. The radio is no longer functional. They're not designed to be underwater. Most of the stuff in the engine compartment is watertight, designed to be able to take water. But still, even in the engine compartment, before I did much water fording, I would go in and unplug all my electronics, put dielectric grease on them, put them back together. Dielectric grease is just a grease, a water-resistant grease that does not conduct electricity, and it will hold the water. Water gets into one of your ignition coils, you're going to lose that cylinder. So you got to make sure it's not going to get in there. In theory, from the factory, it was designed not to get water in it. But theory and actual sometimes doesn't come together.
Right.
Okay? All right, now if you are going to have to go in deep water and you're worried about flotation, you got to get water inside. Otherwise, it's going to float on you. I floated one down the river, so now it's a good thing. Okay? So you always got to pay attention to that.
Now, water inside, we're actually putting water in the cabin?
You're going to have to get water in the cabin. Okay? That means if you have to crack a door, whatever it is, you're going to have to bring water in. This car, I would never suggest you get water inside of it. You're going to destroy your seat motors, your seat switches, your radios, anything below water level inside will most likely be destroyed.
Okay.
So you always got to think about that. And then I've had other people say, oh, well, it's easy. You leave the windows up, you turn the air on, ingest air from the outside, pressurize the seals. That's a great thing as long as you don't have trouble. Because if you have trouble and you have to escape this vehicle, now you've got windows up and electric system possibly down, you may not be able to get out of that car.
Right, so that's a huge safety concern as you're planning and doing some risk mitigation planning about what if. Well, that's a contingency. If you have an issue there, electronics go down, now you can't roll the window down, might be too much water force on the outside, you can't get the door open, and you start floating away, you're effectively trapped. That's not a good thing. So our procedures are to have your seatbelts off during the water crossing and the windows down. And the reason we do that is in the event something happens, you're able to more readily bail the vehicle.
Yep. That's the best way to do it, in our opinion. But again, I've had people say, "Oh, this is the way you built the windows up and pressurize the cabin."
Well, so there's a saying we have in the SEAL teams. We go, just because you did the wrong thing 1,000 times and lived to tell about it doesn't mean it was the right thing to do. So it comes down to this: winning is not always evidence of best action.
Exactly.
Just because you got away with it didn't mean it was the right thing to do. So we always like to be prepared for contingencies, and we're always thinking about preservation of ourself over the equipment.
Okay. And you were talking about a snorkel. If you bought this vehicle and has a snorkel on it, verify that it is properly hooked up. There's so many of them that a young lad will go buy the vehicle, I want a snorkel, put the snorkel on, and not hook up the rest of the plumbing. It looks good, but it's not functional.
Okay.
Function is my number one priority.
Absolutely. Now let's talk. You're talking about the bow plane, so let's talk about what takes place when we're creating a bow plane as we're moving. The forward motion that we're moving through, and the speed.
Well, what we're going to do, if we can get it right, is kind of hit the water, create a wave, and then tuck in behind it close enough that we can maintain the wave, but behind every wave is a low spot. Any boater can tell you when they're looking at the wave behind the boat, there's a low spot there. Okay? The same thing happens with this. You hit a nice wave, and you get a wave going, you can be pushed, it can be this deep, and you get a wave out in front of you, and it'll drop, and if we get it right in the photos, you'll see if we get deep water this deep, it'll be 6-8 inches lower on the back tires than it is up front.
And that's what from me being a prior Navy guy, I know a little bit about bow planes. So we're gonna look to see if we can recreate one here out in Moab today. And let's talk about a little bit more protection for the electronics up front. So we're here, maybe we're just a weekend warrior or a mild overlander, but now there's a water crossing. We might have visited this place before, but all of a sudden it's springtime and there's a lot of melt. It's a little deeper than we wanted to, and we don't have a snorkel. It hasn't been prepared. We haven't lifted up the electronics. What's some really simple and inexpensive stuff that we might be able to bring with us and just have in our back pocket to protect the onboard electronics a little bit more?
Well, the easy thing for having to ford deep water is tarping the front end. Okay, we'll just use a standard tarp, and we'll take it across the front, just simple tarp, and basically stop the water from coming in to the radiators. Okay, because when it comes into the radiator, then it's in the engine compartment. Once it's in the engine compartment, it's up in your electronic, or everything in there. Okay, this vehicle happens to have a fuse box in it. It is not water resistant. I have not yet flooded one, so I don't know what it's going to do when it does. So we'll make sure we don't do that.
And then we can secure this tarp with some simple items such as bungee cords,
and duct
some
tape.
rigorous tape.
Okay. The biggest thing you've got to worry about is don't get it down in your tires. You got to keep it tucked up and pulled up. Just pull it out there. Okay. All right, now we want it below the bumper and fold up. Just simple like that. You can use the bungees up to the wipers. You can duct tape it back, whatever it takes to hold it in place. And you got to figure, we're just pushing the water, so we don't have to worry that there's a lot of drag trying to pull this thing off.
Through both. Run it through the wipers. Do some wraps.
This doesn't bother me because the tire's not going to grab it. And it doesn't take much. We'll do the same thing on this side. trying to do is keep it out of the radiator.
Right.
Okay?
So,
Now,
here we go. Pretty functional.
don't start it up and let it run like this for a long time because we have restricted your air.
Right.
So pay attention to it. Okay. The other thing we're going to do right quick is we're going to look at this vehicle here. See what kind of fan system we have. Okay. This vehicle uses what we call a clutch fan. Okay. Now, this sit here and it's been soaking up heat. When we fire this up, that clutch fan is going to be engaged. But what I mean by a clutch fan, everybody's been climbing big mountains and they hear the fan come in, sound like a jet motor, and then go out. That's that fan locking up. Okay. Now, if that fan is locked up when you go into water, it's not designed to work in water. What it will do is tear the blades off the fan. It can pull them through the radiator, which we have done in the past. Make sure you've got that clutch fan released. The best way to do that is get to the edge of the water, raise that engine RPM up, and listen for it. If the fan's engaged, keep it raised until the temperature comes down and it'll shut off. Hopefully we'll be able to show you that here in a minute.
So is that, what condition would we want to keep our air conditioner or heaters in then, just for this river crossing?
AC off, air conditioner off, because if it does have an electric fan, the AC coming on will more than likely turn that electric fan on. Another problem is it can get drawn, especially the plastic ones, will hit the water and the water will pull them right off, break them right off. So it's always something to pay attention to. I was talking about stuff to make sure it was watertight. Okay, this is your mass airflow sensor. This is one I would make sure was
Using the dielectric grease.
dielectric grease. Unplug it. Put your dielectric grease across here and plug it back in. This one, Land Rover did a pretty good job in protecting a lot of the stuff. So if I knew I was going to cross a lot of water, I would do this dielectric grease before I leave the house. It's just a good measure. Is it absolutely necessary? Probably not. Does it make you feel better that you did it? More than likely, you're going to have success with failure. Yes. Okay.
And let's talk about reading the terrain and some of our planning considerations that take place. One, if you are on a long expedition, being mechanically sound and reaching your end destination is your goal. So, make sure you're taking a look at the geography where you are and look for the smallest river crossing possible. You really only want to cross what's going to be crucial for that preservation of the vehicle and for that longevity. But when it comes down to a point of it is where it is, we only have so many options. Before we just start charging the vehicle in there, what type of preparations do we want to make as far as looking at the water and maybe choosing our approach line or where exactly to go, scouting?
Okay. Just looking at this little area here, slow water usually means deep water. Okay. Fast water usually means a little shallower. All right. Right here, I would say I would start walking the river, and I would always walk at least a car's width back and forth, verify that there's no hidden rocks. So water has that unique ability to make everything look level. But I would start over here. You can see where the water speeds up and drops off the edge in the little rapids. That is going to be our most shallow areas. And as you pan up, you can see as it comes through here, you see where it narrows up and the water's slow. It's going to be deeper there. Little things like that is what you're looking for. It's just the shallowest area.
So for that, we usually throw a pair of these in here. Helps with water fording. Also helps if you're digging yourself out of some muck and mud and all that when you're on long trips, so you're not sitting there in wet, nasty boots for the next couple days. So we'll go out, gonna scout this out, scout out the terrain, look for any deep holes or high spots and such.
All right, as Brian's walking out through here, I would really suggest a little taller boots. And something always to think about. For me, about a waist high a little short guy, a little higher on me is our wading depth maximum. And if you can't walk it, it's probably too dangerous to drive across. Because the current's too high, the water's too high for the amount of current. So far I'm seeing it's pretty civil, pretty level. Any big rocks?
There.
Let's see how much shallower it is. Right up where he's walking towards the edge. That's where we're going to want to cross. Why don't you try down this way a little bit, Ryan?
Right now you can feel it moving a little bit faster, even though it's a calm river. This is where I'm feeling a lot of pressure. Now, I know this river isn't terribly deep here today with this season, but we're illustrating the proper procedures for what to do for unknown river crossings. Okay, so we took a look at it. Looks safe, I could walk it. We checked, there's no obstacles, and now we're ready to cross.
One thing we didn't cover about safety when we first started here is anytime you're crossing deep water, have some sort of escape plan. If you're crossing and you can't get across, the engine's running, back out. If you can't back out, make sure you have a strap on the back or a vehicle behind you that can recover you. Deep water by yourself is a bad thing to be doing, so always have an escape plan. By having a strap on the back of the front car and on the front of the rear car, somebody can run out there real quick, hook them, and get them yanked back out. The quicker you can get a car out of the water, the better it is for the car.
Now, on that, if your vehicle did stall, meaning and you're losing compression within your intake to your exhaust, what's the danger there for the vehicle?
All right. If you ingest water, if you have a paper type filter, paper will swell up real fast and it doesn't let water through real easy, so hopefully it will stop there. But if you take it all the way into the engine, you'll more likely break a rod, break a piston, or a block, or all three.
Okay, and then from the reverse side, if we were to stop and we have no back pressure coming out of the exhaust, now that's an avenue for water to come in?
It is an avenue for water to come in, but it's limited because normally you have a high spot over your rear differential, and that makes a choke spot for the water.
Oh, great.
Like a drain trap.
Okay.
But there is a drain hole in your exhaust system down there. So if you sit out there very long, it can come backwards into the engine.
All right. Now, so that's going to wrap it up for our water fording comparison segment for these LR3s, Coil versus Air. They both performed very well today. I'm going to go with the Coil just knowing that we're around water and all the sensitivities involved with electronics, and just knowing how finicky the air system is, if there were to be some electronic issues, it's just more of a chance that the air system might not function as it should. So in that case, my nod goes to the Coil for reliability.
Reliability, yeah, definitely.
Okay, that wraps it up for this segment. Please tune in, subscribe. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. We appreciate your time. We're Military Mobility. Thanks for tuning in for another amazing episode. We had so much fun out there in the water. Hopefully y'all learned a lot from Webb, putting on the class about water fording, make you more educated off-roaders. The Coil sprung, took it home. And now we're back to a tie at 4 even apiece. Okay, coming up next week is our final episode. The final comparison is towing. Please stay tuned next week. Look forward to seeing you out there. If you like what we're doing, please support our veteran programs by donating at militarymobility.com. We are a 501c3 nonprofit and have no paid salaries. 100% of our funding goes towards running courses for veterans in need. Another easy way to support our veteran programs is by subscribing. You can also choose us as your Amazon Smile beneficiary. This is at no cost to you, as Amazon pledges to donate a portion of their profits from your purchase.